So today we're going to make a devil's food cake. This is a traditional American light chocolate cake, and I'm going to cover it in a white vanilla frosting. Often it's covered in a chocolate frosting, but I think the white contrast to the chocolate sponge is much nicer. The full recipe is available on my blog at www.howtomakecakes.co.uk. So first of all, we'll look at the ingredients needed for the sponge. So the first thing we've got is 100 grams of dark chocolate. We're going to mix that with some boiling water, which I'll show you in a minute. We have 300 grams of soft brown sugar, 175 grams of butter. This is unsalted butter that's at room temperature. We have some soured cream, 175 milliliters of soured cream. We have 3 eggs, 1.5 teaspoons of bicarbonate of soda. We're going to have 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then 300 grams of plain flour. So the first thing we're going to do is just melt the chocolate down, and we do that with some boiling water, and then we'll make the sponge and pour the chocolate mixture in. So the first thing to do is get the chocolate, put it in a saucepan, and we're going to add 175 milliliters of boiling water. So pour the boiling water, it's 175 milliliters, onto the chocolate. It will start to melt it, and then we're just going to put it on the hob on a low heat just for it all to melt down. Let's put it on, keep it on low, and it will very, very quickly all melt. So you'll see that very quickly this will all melt, the chocolate will melt down, and you just got some liquid chocolate. Just leave that, turn the heat off, leave that to cool a little, and we'll start to make the sponge, and then we'll add this. The first thing we're going to do is beat together the butter and the sugar. I'm just going to use a hand mixer today. You may have seen before, I've got a sort of Kenwood chef machine you can use. It's just, you're stirring things in here, and I think it's easier just to do it with a hand whisk. So put the butter in, the sugar in, and then we'll just whisk those together. So after a few minutes, that should all be mixed together, and then we're going to add the eggs just one at a time. So just crack one in, whisk it up, then the next one, and then the last one. So once the eggs are all mixed in, you'll be left with a nice runny mixture, and we're now just going to stir the chocolate in. So bring across the cooled chocolate and just pour it all in. And don't use the mixer now, just stir this in by hand. It will appear to be extremely runny, but we're about to add all the flour into it. So the next thing we do is just mix some vanilla extract into the sour cream. So it's just 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Just stir that in there, and then we're going to add the sour cream and the flour, a bit of each at a time, to the mixture we've already got. So the first thing to do is sort of take a couple of dollops of the sour cream, and then get your flour and just sieve in maybe 1/3 of the flour. And then we're just going to stir those together. Again, you could use a mixer, but I think it's better just to stir it in by hand. So I'm now just adding the last of the sour cream, and don't forget, with the last bit of the plain flour, put the bicarbonate of soda in as well, and then we'll just mix this up one final time. So again, give it a good stir in. So once it's all incorporated together, we're actually going to have 3 tins. So I've got 3 8-inch tins, and because we're going to have 3 layers on the cake. Mine, as you can see, don't actually match. As long as they're the same size, it's fine. You're going to have 3 relatively thin sponges which will all stack on top of each other. So just divide it equally between the 3 tins. So divide it nice and equally between the 3. It doesn't really matter because they're all going to be stacked together and they're all going to be covered in frosting. So if they're a different size, it doesn't really matter. But as equal as you can. The mixture is fairly runny, but that's how it's meant to be. So we're then going to put it in the oven on 180 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes. Put them in the oven. I mean, most ovens you'll find you can get 2 on one shelf and one is going to have to go on a lower shelf. Now that may mean that the lower one takes slightly longer to cook, but cook the first ones for 20 to 25 minutes and then we can move them around if we need to. So once the time is up, these got cooked, they'll just become nice and springy. That's perfect. Take them out of the oven and then we'll just turn them onto a wire rack to cool. So to turn them out onto the wire rack, just go round the edge with a knife. You should feel it coming away anyway as it's cooked, and then hopefully we'll turn it out and it will easily come out. Okay, so that should have loosened it. The easiest way I find to do it is put the rack on it and then grab the whole thing and turn it over. Like that. And then hopefully that will come off. And we remove the bottom. And we remove our greaseproof paper. And there's one of our cakes. So once you've let the cakes cool a bit, you just need to make sure all the cakes are level. Now this one actually didn't rise very evenly, and obviously as you're stacking them together, it won't work like that. So you need to actually level it off. Easiest way to do it, well, a way to do it is to use a knife and literally just cut it so that it ends up level. There is a piece of kit you can buy. This is called a cake leveler, and this moves up and down. It's just a piece of wire. So you measure it so that it's at the lowest point of the cake, like that, and then you literally just pull it across the cake, and where it's higher, it starts to cut the cake, and it will cut it so that it ends up being all the same height. So either just use a knife to do it, or as you can see here, this is a bit of a cleverer way of doing it and ensuring that it's even. So once the cakes are cooled and you've leveled them off, the next thing to do is to make the frosting. And for the frosting, this is a real American style frosting that we're doing. We need 2 egg whites, we need 500 grams of granulated sugar, 300 milliliters of water, and a little bit of cream of tartar. 2 things happening at once here. What we need to do is dissolve the sugar and the water. So we're going to put the sugar and the water together in a saucepan and put it on a low heat, and then we'll whisk up the egg whites. So pour the water into the saucepan, put all the sugar in. There is a lot of sugar. And we'll stir that together and then just put that on a low heat while we whisk the egg whites. It needs to get to a certain temperature, which we'll do in a moment. While the sugar's just on the low heat, get your egg whites, put them in a very clean bowl, and then you need either a hand whisk or a whisk attachment like this, and we're just whisking them until we get stiff peaks. It will take a while. So you want to whisk it until the peaks stand up like that, so nice stiff peaks. So leave that for a while and we'll just go and check on the sugar and the water. So what we need here is for all the sugar to melt, and it actually needs to get to a temperature of 118 degrees centigrade. Now, if you've got a sugar thermometer like this, you can use that. Now, if you haven't, then heat it up until the sugar dissolves, and you'll know it's the right temperature. If you drop some water into the mixture, it'll just create a little soft ball, so you'll know it's at the right temperature. So really all the sugar needs to have dissolved, but it mustn't boil, it mustn't get that hot. So just keep an eye on it, stirring it occasionally, and you'll see the sugar start to melt. So once the sugar is actually dissolved, you can then bring it up to boil, but the sugar must have melted before that happens. And then if you've got the sugar thermometer, just keep an eye on the temperature. It needs to get to 118 degrees. And I'll just show you the test if you don't have one, so you'll know when it's time to take it off. So this has just got to exactly 118 degrees, so I'm going to take it off now. The test you can do, which hopefully should show, I don't know how well it'll do it on the video, if you get some cold water and drop it in, it actually forms a little soft ball. I don't know if you can see it very well there, but the liquid should just be starting to change colour, but not have gone to a golden colour. If it's gone to a golden colour, it's gone too far. So what we need to do with this now, this is where our cream of tartar comes in. You get the cream of tartar, and it's just, you get a pinch of cream of tartar, put it in, it'll just a little bit like that, and then we whisk it up and it should go cloudy. See, that's just gone cloudy from whisking it up, and then we slowly pour it in here, whisking at the same time. So it will go nice and thick, lose a bit of its shine, and you can see it goes like a frosting thickness. So that's perfect and ready to cover the cake. So what we want to do, we've got our 3 cakes. We're going to layer them together with the frosting, and then we're going to put frosting all on the outside. So I tend to keep the best sponge for the top one, because that's going to be the one where you'll see it's most level, and then have the other 2 for the other 2 layers. So for the bottom layer, I've used the one where I've cut it so that that's not going to be the top, obviously. So you just get some of your frosting and liberally apply it to this layer. So once you've done that layer, get your next layer and put it on top. And then we're going to repeat the process again. Again, once you've done that, get your top layer and put that one on top. Wow. Now we are going to cover the whole thing with this frosting. So first of all, do the top, and then we'll put it around the sides as well. So to do the sides, just get some on the back of the palette knife and just fill in all the gaps and spread it round, right down to the bottom of the cake. So then go all the way around the cake and cover it in the frosting. And there you have an American style devil's food cake with vanilla frosting. Don't forget, the full recipe is on my blog at www.howtomakecakes.co.uk.